Okay.
So, you know, the spiel before we, oh, there we go. Well, this can be edited out.
Yeah.
But if, you know, the spiel, we'll do a quick introduction on you. So it's really three topics. One, the self, like your journey, how you got to where you are today. The why you do what would you say is your legacy, and the vision. So what do you what does the future, the next few years hold for you?
Gotcha.
Perfect. All right, we can dive straight into it. So hello everyone.
Hey, Lou.
Hi Nick. How are you
Hi,
today?
Lou.
Yeah.
I'm way better than average. I'm better than I should be, I think. I'm very grateful.
Oh, perfect. So I, you know, most of our listeners should know who you are. If they don't, could you uh, perhaps introduce yourself in a couple of sentences, who you are and what you do?
Yeah, my name is Nick Rothwell. I'm the founding partner of an organization called Retribe. I'm an ex-professional ice hockey player and sports broadcaster and uh, production company owner. So I was always in kind of media and advertising for many years, running alongside being a professional athlete and I'm being on TV. And and I'm from Canada originally. I live in London, England right now, running Retribe, and life is beautiful. My journey has brought me here, Lou, in a way like I know you know, but I can tell it in a couple of minutes just so people can get an understanding of who I am and why I do what I do. Is that, you know, I grew up in Western Canada where to English immigrants in a place called Saskatoon. My household was very loving at times, but it was also very scary at times. You know, my father could be a pretty violent guy when he had a drink, and I say this because I have to let people know that at the core of my existence inside of me was a very scared boy. You know, who would pee his pants when his dad would walk in the room, and I developed mechanisms to be able to defend myself against that. You know, I would lie a lot. I would steal a lot. I'd fantasize. I would manipulate. I would mimic all these kind of, you would call them like, you know, for defects of character or something, but really it's just defense mechanisms. You know, when you're an 8-year-old boy and you're a bedwetter, you do what you can to protect yourself. And I grew into a really athletic body, and I played sport to get my father's approval, but also kept me out of the house. And when I was 18 years old, I moved to the UK to play professional ice hockey. You know, I couldn't play pro in North America. I didn't make that grade, but in the UK, you know, I was good enough to get paid enough to, you know, to get a mortgage and drive a car and put myself to university. And those defense mechanisms I had when I was a kid started turning into assets for me because I could manipulate and I could BS my way in and out of any situation. And you'd say I was a charmer or a BSer. And I don't want to swear. Everyone knows what a BSer is. And those, I started to get things. You know, I could charm my way, like I said, into any situation or out of any situation. And by the time I was 28 years old, I got my degree, which was through a lot of like flirting with teachers to get me better grades. You know, convincing my father to edit my essays, and yeah, Sky Sports started covering the ice hockey, and I even used my way to get into a job there as a TV presenter. So I had all this stuff on the outside, but inside I felt like a fraud. You know, I looked in the mirror and I was like, I didn't deserve any of this. I lied my way into all of it. And I never drank or did drugs as an athlete because I didn't want to be like my father. But
Mm.
you know, hanging out in the West End and you're on TV and you're kind of people like it's just a buzz, right? And someone introduced me to a combination of like cocaine and martinis, and I knew nothing about alcoholism or drug addiction, but I do know that when anything ever bad happened in my life, alcohol was a solution. And then all of a sudden, it became more of a daily thing. It was just, and eventually became a thing just to exist for me. So I drank daily. I drank in the morning. I drank at night. I drank in and out of, you know, trouble. So the consequences of my drinking, though, got worse and worse and worse. But they were not, however bad they got, even a jail sentence, I would still drink the day I got out of jail. And I don't mean a drunk tank. I mean a penitentiary in Southern Ontario in Canada, which is not a nice place to be. So I was completely powerless over this because in my mind, I always like alcohol is a solution. until your body starts to break down, until you're walking down the street with a stolen bottle of vodka in your bag because you have no money and people are veering by the sidewalk and you're a pathetic case of a man who's falling apart and dying, you know. And it was like around 5 years ago that I was dying of liver failure, kidney failure, acute pancreatitis. I'd lost the sight temporarily in my left eye because of malnutrition and dehydration. And I was done, you know. And I think that that's what it took for me to growing up in the environment that I grew up in, which is all this real man stuff that we're talking about today, which is real men don't cry. Real men do not show that they're weak. Real men do not ask for help, you know, and that mentality almost killed me because it was only when I was 45 and so smashed that I finally said, help me to somebody. And not only did I say, help me, but I took the suggestions and actions to actually get better. And that's how Retribe was born, because I thought, you know, 12-step programs really have the market cornered on on my difficulties. But what I noticed is that there was a lot of people who were suffering from disconnection and isolation and loneliness. And they really did want to do stuff that I was doing in sobriety, which is like going to the gym again and going to yoga class and going to meditation classes. And I was doing this with a group of guys who I'd met in my recovery program. And because we had similar life challenges and life experiences, we were more willing to kind of do things together, and we became accountable towards one another. And it gave me incentive to do the things that normally I would sit at home in an apartment watching Netflix by myself. So Retribe came around as a way to help people find their little tribe again, find some accountability, and to go through some positive holistic lifestyle services together that you know, that my business partner Melissa, who you know very well, who is an amazing, beautiful light of spirituality and goodness and tools to help people change. And that's where we are today, Lou. Is we've got Retribe into some pretty big corporations, very high pressure environments, very very high pressure environments, and we're able to go in and through our experience, through our learnings, through our programs, we're helping people build community and connect and understand one another through these hugely uncertain times. And I'm just so grateful that what we're able to do is actually help people through these uncertain times.
Thank you for that. That was beautiful and raw and authentic, and it really shows the power of recognizing what and who you are, and your purpose in life. I think you've touched a few times in the past when we were talking individually on service, and that really shows through that you are doing something that is it is your personal mission, that is your life mission. So if you had to say in a few words what you think your legacy is to the world, what your why is, what would it be?
Yeah, that's it. You've hit the nail on the head. So going through this recovery process, what I noted in, you know, and it's not easy to do. It's a lot of self-reflection and looking at, you know, why we become so selfish and self-centered as alcoholics. And it was like, as I mentioned at the beginning, about that fear. So I was able to deal with the fear so that I no longer needed those defense mechanisms or character traits that got me into so much trouble. And that put me in a place to help others. So, you know, for someone like me that is built the way I am, with the, you know, certain times inability to see truth, or my perspective could be quite fear driven. If I'm helping somebody else, I don't have that set of glasses on. I have a clear set of glasses where I can see truth a lot more easy. So the legacy, you know, it's kind of weird to say that word, but you know, what I'm trying to instill in the people who I work with is the same, is that we were always tribal. You know, the reason why we call Retribe is because we were always tribal. And I did a lot of work in studying, you know, kind of like the last 10 or 20,000 years of our evolution, where we always had a purpose in our tribe. And it is only in the last, say, 250, 300 years, particularly since the Industrial Revolution, that we've been compartmentalized into the mechanics of the world of capitalism. And I'm not saying my standpoint on capitalism, but you can see how the world is set up, you know, where we go to work and we provide and we do this and we do that. We have certain expectations, but it's like we're always controlled to just make the money, put the food on the table, and we've lost this kind of sense of purpose. Like our purpose is now to serve something, just to get a paycheck rather than to serve something to help one another. And in your tribe, you were a hunter or a gatherer, a childbearer or a nurse, or a hunter or a gatherer, I think if I said that, or a guard or a shaman or a doctor, but you had something to give to your tribe
Mm-hmm.
rather than to take from your tribe. And I think this is what we're trying to teach people is like, just get up in the morning, do what you got to do. But I always say, how can I be of service to the universe today? How can I help my fellow man? Because, I'm here for like 80 years or something like that. I don't know anything about spirituality up there in the stars,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not going to think about it. I am constrained by this meat suit, the laws of the gravity and physics and entropy. While I'm here, my purpose is to help my fellow man. And in doing that, that's what so in terms of a legacy, I try to teach that to other men,
Mm-hmm.
and it works. It just seems to work. It's just a way to get out of our own way and to be guided. So
Mm.
I think that,
And to
that's
start,
kind of,
yeah, just to
yeah.
start looking more outwardly, not on, in our little belly buttons. Like we've lost that sense of village, of community, of all collaborating for the greater good of the whole rather than our individual
Yeah,
pursuits, right? And
exactly.
I know we could sit here and talk forever, but we do have to wrap up briefly. So in the typical beneath the
Mhm.
surface, the service. Oh, look at that.
There you go.
Freudian slip. But in the beneath the surface or surface way, the last piece really talks about the future. And this is a particularly pertinent topic nowadays, and particularly as we go into 2021. What does the future hold, or what would you like for it to hold? Do you think this year has finally crystallized the importance, the importance of mental health for one, but also the importance of us coming together as a collective and as a community?
I think that I'll just say briefly, with COVID, we've got this universal challenge. So when the globe is going through a challenge at the same time, it tends to create unity, like a world war. People, like, especially at the beginning of COVID, everyone was right together. What can I do for my neighbor? Can I go to the pick up your prescriptions? Can I bring you bread? We were out looking. And I think that just sparked in me, this is what we can be like. So I think that if we can do it just for 1 or 2 months, we can do it for all of the time. It's just how do we stop ourselves from snapping back into the fear of, I've got to be at work, I've got to be at the front of the queue, I've got to, because we all kind of for a couple of months forgot that. So what we're trying to do, and what we've seen over the last 9 months, is our ability to create safe spaces for people to be able to talk. Melissa is a very skilled therapist, so she can get some certain things out of people. I'm very skilled at talking with men, and I can get certain things out of men to create this level of vulnerability and trust. And I think that what we want to do moving forward is just to be able to scale these safe spaces for people to be able to talk. So we want to use technology in an app form or in the digital platform that we already have to get people to join, to then get people to incentivize to meeting face to face when it's safe, which is going to happen. The vaccine is already developed, but the world is always going to be dealing with certain issues. And I think, as you said, we are in an awakening. The sacred feminine is waking up, and is saying, enough of this stuff, guys. It's time to wake up. The 80s and 90s are done. Let's move into
Exactly.
2020, and let's start loving one another, and let's start becoming, let's move from this idea of competition to one of challenge and altruism. And our what we want to do is again just be able to scale what me and Melissa do in corporations and in the communities that we work in. And we're looking into education as well, but just to kind of deliver a more pastoral approach to mental well-being, to well-being in general, in our spaces that we spend so much time, like work and school.
Work and school, and
Yeah.
absolutely, as we know, the majority of mental illnesses, or a good predictor of mental ill health, is the manifestation of these issues before the age of 14. So it's very important, if not the most important, that we're also looking at the future generations to see if I mean I've always been a big believer that this is something that should be taught in schools as much as well as we learn maths and science and history. We need
I,
to learn emotional well-being.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that it's something that, again, we were talking about it before we hit record, but what we're doing as a community, trying to get our egos out of the way to make sure that our organizations can come together
Mhm.
to become disruptors, to disrupt the systems, because it's the systems that need to be unpicked. And to do that, we need to have evidence. We need to have systems where people can go, I'll trust that because I can see it worked in that organization. And then we
Mhm.
start dismantling these corporate structures of power that are driven from a small few at the top, to the many down here, and get the many up here or down here to show the boardroom what they need for safe spaces to work. So, and I think that that's what we're going to do as a collective. It's not just going to be a retribe thing or a mind check thing. It's going to be all of us coming together to go, these are our skills, these are our loves, and let's tear this old stuff down and rebuild a new beautiful world. There you go.
Oof, that's a beautiful vision.
Yeah.
All right, well, there's not a better note to end our time together. So thank you so much. Always very grateful. And
Thank you,
beautiful
Lou.
work that you're
Thank you.
doing, and
Likewise. You're
bring
amazing.
on 2021.
There you go. I love what you guys are doing, and I love being part of it. So yeah, lots of love.
Oh, beautiful. All right.